Right, welcome to another edition of the Old Parachute Podcast, a podcast where we talk to a variety of guests from all walks of life with their fascinating life stories. If you haven't already, please go to the YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button. It's free, takes a few seconds, and it helps massively get the messages out there that we're trying to push. Without further ado, today's guest, former One Para and former SFSG, Dave Radband. How you doing, Dave?
Not bad, thanks, mate. Tom. Been a while in the making, hasn't it? Trying to get me pinned down trying to get me pinned down nowadays is quite hard.
Yeah, no reason. Look, I understand, mate. Blokes are all over the shop, all over the world, doing bits and bobs.
Yeah,
I just appreciate you taking the time to finally get it nailed down and get you on the podcast. Been looking forward to it for some time now.
yeah, no problem, mate. Yeah, look forward to it.
Happy days. Right. What I like to do with all the podcasts is I like to start at the beginning. It seems like the best place to start. Get a bit of
Yeah.
background about yourself, where you grew up, what you were like as a kid, and then ultimately what led you down the road you took. So yeah, over to you, pal.
Well, I grew up in everyone would know Bryce Norton. I started off living in a place called Burford, which is probably 5 miles away from Bryce Norton. My dad was a firefighter there. Yeah, so then I moved to a place called Bampton, which is right next to the Bryce Norton village. So we're pretty much right next to the airfield. It's not far away at all. So I kind of knew about the Reg anyway. You know, obviously, like seeing them around. My dad was friends with the parachute jumping instructors. So yeah, I had an idea what the Reg was about. Being a kid, I was an outdoors kid all the time. Always down the field with the older guys. Mum always said I was always in camouflage. You know, just had that massive interest with the military. I think all young boys have an interest to the military because it's like, you know, the outdoor side of it and just getting dirty all the time and hiding in bushes and shit. But it's only as I got older, I started to read more about the Parachute Regiment and, you know, watching films with Dad on a Sunday after he gets back from the pub, etc. I become more aware of what the Reg was about. But then obviously, like, going to school, got bullied all through like secondary school. I went to a school in year 7, didn't really get on well there. Then I moved to Burford, which was a school where my mum went to for the rest of my time. And obviously being a lot smaller than I am now anyway, I was probably fucking 10, 9 stone as a kid, not very big at all, just lanky and skinny. Just got bullied, picked on. School didn't really do much about it. Parents tried to like push it in ways to get it sorted, but it wasn't really, you know, getting sorted. Got to the point where I was asking my old man to just go fill the fucking bloke's dad in. Like, my dad was like, "You need to figure this out on your own. You know, like you got to sort it out yourself." And I think he was just trying to instill a little bit of, you know, you need to be fucking tough in this life, so be tough. You know. So I just dealt with the bullying through school. Just let it happen. I can remember doing a talk on the Reg. God, what had I been? Probably can't remember now what year it had been. But anyway, I'd done a talk on the Reg one day. It's like, you know, show and tell. Remember that book with it's called The Paras, and it's got the Pathfinder guy on it. Might have been Tom Blakey free falling on the front of it. So done a talk on that book and said, I'll be in the Reg one day, like in the Parachute Regiment. And the bully punched me straight in the face on the break time and said, "You'll never make it in the army." I thought he broke my jaw. Couldn't get my teeth to touch. He whacked me that hard. And with the bullying, my dad went to one of the parachute jumping instructors, Pat Feeney, his name was. He's on the RAF Falcons for quite a long time. I just said to him, "Look, he's getting bullied at school. Can you take on like a bit of an insight on the camp and that?" So I went into parachute training school on Bryce Norton when I was a kid. Put me in the swings and that, twisted me up, showed me how to kick out of it. I've done the fan, which is quite strange actually, because when I've done the fan as a kid, I can't remember being scared. But when I've done the fan, once I passed peak up, you know, I shitted myself.
Yeah, I know. I can
Like,
relate. I can relate.
Even going up the ladder, I was fucking shitting it. So yeah, I had like an insight into the Reg there and what it was about, because there was like paras kicking around and like, you know, going up to Western on the Green with my dad's friend and watching them parachute, and it was just something that I wanted to do. Yeah, So the Reg was always something I wanted to do, but I just didn't have the confidence at the time to go and do it, because being bullied as a kid, anybody that gets bullied will know that it knocks your confidence. It does knock your confidence. So you don't actually. It's one of those areas, isn't it? Can I do it? Can I not? It's a hard regiment to get into. You hear all the stories about the Reg, like the reputation. Can I actually be that guy or not?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, and like you say, from your dad's point of view with the bullying and stuff, I had similar sort of stuff when I was growing up, and my dad, and it wasn't like, your dad wanted to help, but it was like what you said, it was tough love. It's like you need to sort it out, because if you start relying on people growing up and to bail you out of situations. So I understand, I can sort of relate to what you're saying there with the bullying, but it's not fun, is it? Bullying, it's
Yeah,
where you go. Oh, you disappeared then. Yeah, it's not. I think every kid goes through it to some extent, but it's how
yeah,
you deal with it and how you kind of let it affect you going forward. And obviously, for you, it kind of probably was a bit of a push as well. You have people telling you you're never going to do that, and it's a bit
yeah,
like a lot of mentality with young lads is a bit like, well, I'll show you, I'll prove you wrong, and
yeah.
obviously you did.
It's
So
how
yeah,
you,
you come out of
it's how you
school.
use it, isn't it?
Of course it is. It either fuels the fire, or you kind of believe what they say and then you don't do it. So, in
Yeah,
your case, it obviously fueled the fire. So, yeah, you've obviously gone on. What age did you decide that? Well, obviously you decided at a young age you were going to go for the reg, but what age did you join up? Was you quite young?
yeah. I joined up. Joined up when I was 16. Went in 17. Um, I was 17 3 days after I got to depot. Um, I joined depot 23rd November 2003. Um, Day after we won the Rugby World Cup. Um, yeah, it was got the depot. Then I think a couple of weeks into depot, picked up an injury. Went to Falklands platoon for a while. I think I was in Falklands platoon for about 4 or 5 months. I think I was there after my injury, and mate, I was just swimming, low impact, because it was my hip. I picked up the injury from, so I was just swimming all the time, and it got me like turbo fit, mate, like turbo fit. Um, Went back in to a platoon around about week 12, I think it was. I think around about week 12 into a uh, AFC platoon, and then just picked up from week 12 and went through. Um, got the P company. Um, I found a 10 miler, the first 10 mile we done. So it's like you do a beat up 10 miler before you actually do the 10 miler. And I can remember doing the warm up for it. And I was thinking, how the fuck am I going to do this 10 miler? I'm hanging out on the warm up.
That's the
And
adrenaline, isn't it? It's the adrenaline, I think.
then I did hang out on the 10 miler. And we had like the actual 10 miler. I think it was like maybe a couple of weeks after that. But then I found the P company 10 miler quite easy. So I don't know if they were just hammering us like a little bit faster to make us like, it's going to be hard on this one. So when you actually come to do the next one, it's easier.
Yeah, quite probable. I think some of them tabs they took us through in depot were very suspect about the timings. They're like, oh yeah, we're coming round in an hour 50, and I'm like, it seems a bit faster than that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Um,
it's always the way.
Always the way, mate. Always the way. I'm quite open about it. I find depot really, really hard. I did P company 3 times in 6 months before I
Well,
actually passed three complete P companies. Something I used to kind of be a bit embarrassed about, but now I kind of hold it quite as not a badge of honor, but a bit like I had the
yeah,
mindset to crack on when people didn't. So you know,
100%.
it's one of them things. But yeah, so depot obviously some people love it, some people hated it. I was kind of in the middle. I enjoyed parts of it,
Yeah,
but it is hard, isn't it? For a 16, I was 17. It's a hard for a young lad, and it's a lot on the body, isn't it?
it was for me, because I was bullied at school and I was still in that pussy mindset of being like a fragile little boy, really. It was like a big learning curve for me. And I didn't actually want to be there. Um, I think I probably handed in a letter to a guy called John Scott. Might know him, John Scott, two para snipers.
Yeah,
he was like one of my DS. I handed a letter to him quite a few times saying I want to like bin this. I've had enough. And he just kept handing me a letter back saying, "Nope, you're staying." He, to this day, he says that he see potential in me, so he wouldn't let me leave. Yeah, it was a massive learning curve for me for sure. And I guess the, I guess the fitter you get, the easier it gets for you, because obviously the corridors. So like I said, or we all say to everybody, it's not the actual training that you go through, the infantry training, because everybody's got the same training going through infantry training. It's the corridors that make you a reg bloke. The thrashings in the
Yeah.
corridor.
Yeah.
That's what makes you like that. You know, that mental resilience you've got to have to get through those corridor sessions.
Yeah, they were. They were. I remember them being particularly brutal. And you're right. You know, you dread it. You know, you're going to get called into the corridor. You know, you're going to get beasted. But they were the bits when you were already aching after fitness, before fitness, when you did them corridor sessions. They were the mental kind of, like you say, building that mental robustness,
Yeah,
really, isn't it?
yeah. We I can remember us getting back off off an exercise, and we were told we're not allowed to get out of our kit. We had to stay in our kit, and so we're all lined up in the corridor, and it's like, right, no one's getting out their fucking kit. So I'm like, yeah. They're like, does that mean we got to shower in our kit? Got us a 2-hour thrashing.
Yeah, yeah.
Some
These sort of
questions,
things
get
you
your
learn.
thrashing, eh?
Yeah, don't ask questions and don't sort of try and be cocky. And a few
Yeah,
times I've had similar situations where I managed to get the whole platoon thrashed for gobbing off or saying something I should have done. So I
yeah,
can relate. Um, so obviously, yeah, you've got through depot, past peak. I always talk about dynamite mole was what it was called when I came through. I don't know what it was
yeah.
called when you come through because it changed names over the years.
Manic
But
mole, dynamite mole, the mole. It's got a few different names, hasn't it?
yeah, equally they all mean the same thing. It's a lot of pain, and I always say that was harder for me, and I think for a lot of guys than the kind of the fizz side, the P company and stuff, because it's beyond that. Is purely mental, isn't it? You dig your trench, sleep deprivation. You know, you're out in the cold, you're out in the wet, soaking wet through. I think ours was in like February or March time, so
Yeah,
you know it's horrendous conditions, and you see a lot of people rap on that as well, don't you?
yeah. Well, it's it's just like you say, it's hard. I think it's hard once you pass the P company, because they bring you back down a level. Like you're still not a fucking reg bloke yet. So the corridor thrashings get that a little bit harder, I think. Just to put you in your place that, look, you haven't made it yet. You're still in depot. So it's that it's that little bit harder after you pass P company. Um, but I know I thought at the time, like, the corridor thrashings are picking up a little bit now, getting a little bit longer, a little bit harder. Um, but Manic Mole, like, if I'm honest with you, I can't really remember much about Manic Mole. I can remember digging in. One of the things that stands out to me is when I was hallucinating, and so I've looked through my SUSAT, and I've seen like Mario, you know, little Mario in my SUSAT, and I'm like, fucking hell, like, shake, give your head a bit of a wobble. And I've looked over to the woods, and I see someone walk into a woods, and like with a light like that, switch on a light, and I didn't even think, why the fuck is there a light in the woods? I thought, how's he got electricity in the woods? So my head was all over the place, mate. Like, my head was completely fucked from sleep debt.
Oh, mate! Honestly, I remember seeing cows in the next field and thinking they were tanks. That you know, I was just like, I was convinced that they were all tanks. And I remember like there was like a little hole, like a little bit of a crater when we were digging in the trench, and everyone was trying to ush around it like it was the
Yeah,
Grand Canyon or something. And it was like a little dip in the ground. It's mental. You can't explain to people sleep deprivation when you've gone
no,
without sleep 4 or 5 days. You know,
it's one of those things that you can't explain it unless you experienced it. Like, you have to experience it to get the full effects from it.
Oh God, yeah, yeah. And like I say, I have fond memories and obviously still nightmares. I think over some of the stuff in depot, but
Yeah,
it is what it is, and it shaped going forward. That period for me, probably like yourself, has shaped the person I am today. I'm 45 now, but I still take lessons from the stuff that I was taught when I was 17 coming through depot. You know, and it's a weird thing. Um,
100%.
so obviously, yeah, you got through depot, and then straight to one para.
Straight to one para, yeah. This was when one para was still part of 16 Air Assault, based down in Dover. So I passed out, report to Dover on the Monday, and we done a little bit of rear party because the battalion were in Northern Ireland at the time. So yeah, they just deployed, so we done a bit of rear party, and then I think it was after maybe 3 weeks for being in Dover, we deployed to Ireland. So got up to Ireland, Besbrook Mill, spent some time in Besbrook Mill, went to Beacon 4 platoon to start with, might have been 5 platoon. I'm pretty sure it's 4 platoon, can't really remember. 4 or 5 platoon anyway. Yeah, done some time in Besbrook Mill, come back to Bryce, done our jumps course. That took like 6 weeks, because that was back when you stayed in Bryce until you got your wings. There's no like, you've got a certain time frame to get your wings. It's like you stay in Bryce until you get your wings, and it was a summer. So I was just at home, mate. All the blokes would like staying in my mum and dad's house. My mum and dad would get back from work, and the blokes would cook them scoff. They fucking loved it, mate. Loved it. We had tents in the back garden with blokes in. Yeah, mate, I had 6 weeks at home just fucking, I was parachuting, coming back home, going on the piss with my schoolmates, and like, it's fucking mega.
Yeah, Phil.
And then, yeah, so got wings, went back to Ireland, and then I went to Crossmaglen. I was in Crossmaglen with,
Okay.
yeah, some of the machine gun mortars and that were, the team were there. I actually rocked back up to Crossmaglen. I got told by one of the senior blokes I got to dress up as a gimp. So dressed me up as a gimp in like black nasty tape, mate. Ran my bollocks a lot. Got my boots on, and they were like, right, a Puma's coming in. You've got to go out and load this like section of this platoon of blokes that are going out on a patrol onto the aircraft. So Puma comes in, I run out, start loading the blokes. I'm dressed like a fucking gimp, mate. And the RAF were not impressed. So I got absolutely hammered around the fucking helipad, jerry canned to death, mate.
But
I
that's
was like, doing what I was told.
yeah,
I
yeah.
could even like do that or get filled in.
But and it's weird, like because my last tour of Northern Ireland, 2003, before I got out 2004, I did Besbrook Mill, and those island tours, because they're kind of steady. There's a lot of time that the blokes are together, and there's
Yeah,
a lot of stuff that goes off, and there's a lot of shit. You're getting a lot of shit around them times because
yeah,
blokes are a bit bored,
yeah,
aren't they? When you're not
yeah.
patrolling, you're on guard, or or on QRF or whatever. You get a bit of free time, and the blokes get up to some serious shit, don't they?
It's fucking mad, mate. But one of the blokes, like, he was quite small. I won't mention his name for obvious reasons. But it was like, do you reckon you can fit in that black grip? He's like, yeah, like, go on then. So he got the black grip, and they've like padlocked his shut, mate. And they've had him swinging up from the fucking scaffolding. He's in there like, I'm gonna be sick, like, let me down. Anyway, they threw him outside the Pearson Ice Station, banged on the door, mate. Caused a massive fucking issue, that.
Thought it was some sort of device, but it's a little red boot.
Probably, or someone's been kidnapped and just thrown in a fucking black grip.
Again, this is because you're young, aren't you? You look back at this and it were all good fun at the times, but you can't see the bigger picture now. Looking back, going, I can see why that might be an issue.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I think being a civvy, you realise that that's probably not fucking right, but you're all a little bit mad.
Yeah, absolutely. And them times are what bond people together and a kind of makes the brotherhood that is the Parachute Regiment, and makes you such a fighting force that they are. And obviously, when you went to one you can't, but correct me if I'm wrong, you can't go to one para now straight from depot. It's got like, you have to go to 2 or 3 and
Yeah,
then get a bit of time in first. Is
yeah.
there like a selection process for a SFSG for the people that are watching this special forces support group? Is there like a little bit of a selection process for SFSG now then?
Um, I don't think it's a selection. I think it's a cadre. So it's not a selection as such. It's more of a cadre, as in like you got to complete this, but you can fail it. I think it's more on like an attitude-based thing nowadays because you like people can pick up if you're quite a good soldier, we can all pick up like a new skill set quite quickly. It doesn't take rocket science to figure out new weapon systems and new radios and kit, etc. But if you haven't got the right attitude, I think working with like 2 SB and SRR, it's like you ain't got the right attitude, like see ya, or So it's more of a cadre rather than a selection. I don't know if there ever will be a selection. I think if they go as their own identity and change the cap badge for everybody there, maybe there'll be a selection. But I think while it's still, people keeping their parent cap badges, etc., and going back in and out, yeah, I don't think it will change.
Yeah, fair one, fair one. So obviously you got to get a bit of experience in one of the regular battalions as such before you go to one, which makes sense.
Yeah,
You know, it's a completely different role. You're doing
yeah,
stuff, you know, that's not necessarily conventional green soldiering, as it were. It's different things, which we'll probably
yeah.
come on to later on. But so obviously, like you finished that tour. Uneventful tour. I mean, my tours in Northern Ireland. I did my first one in
I
'97
think
straight out of depot. So
nothing went
similar
on
to
that
you,
tour.
really.
Nothing went on. We got told towards the end of the tour, B Company were going to deploy um, with 2-2 on the first SOSG tour. So this was kind of before it was like officially SOSG. Um, I think it became officially SOSG while we were actually deployed on that tour. So I think it was 5 platoon went before us, my platoon, then 4 platoon went afterwards, and we done the 6-month tour with B Squadron, where Billy Billingham was the squadron sergeant major at the time. He ripped out and changed with somebody else after the Norman Kember hostage rescue. So we done the Norman Kember hostage rescue on that tour, and then Billy ripped out. New sergeant major come in. Yeah, that was a bit of an eye opener. I mean, it was kind of a new job role for us. We weren't really sure what we were going to be going into. Even on the PDT, we weren't really sure. I mean, we were down in Hereford sometimes. I think we've done 2 weeks down in Hereford doing the CT4 package, which is CQB in the houses, like shotgun indoors, how to like do basic CQB. Nothing in depth because it wasn't really needed. But then we were like doing the cordons, etc., and like fast roping on target, and fucking hated fast roping as well. Hated it. Yeah, so yeah, just method of entries, how to get on target, landing in helis, all that good stuff. But yeah, the on the actual tour, I mean, we were getting into some right fucking contacts on the cordons. It got to the point where 2-2 actually said to us, they called us in the room and said, "Calm down, like calm down." Like, well, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to just let people in or keep them out? Like, so there was some just contacts going off all over the fucking place on the cordons. It was mental, mate.
Yeah,
Mental.
well, like you say,
Um,
that's the like you say, the infancy of SFSG. You're kind of starting off the role. There's no really kind of clear role as such what you're going to be doing, and obviously as that's gone on and you've worked further and further with like SF and stuff, the role has become like it's role in its own right now, hasn't it? You know what I mean? Where it was
yeah,
kind of they were making it up probably a bit as they go along at that time.
yeah. Well, yeah. It, it's clear instruction, is it? Nobody gets in, nobody gets out. It's simple as that. These are your cordon positions. This is where you're going to go. No one gets in, no one gets out. Simple as that. And like you stick to that, mate. There'd be the odd time where like we'd have a reserve assault team. So you got the assault teams of 2-2, and then like one of our teams would be like on a reserve assault team for like casualty extraction, or if there's extra boots needed on the ground in the house, if it's like quite a big house or whatever, we called in to like pick up the numbers inside the building. There's a few times where there's like outhouses, or there's been a squirter. For those that don't know, a squirter is a runner from the house. So the target house, someone's run out and got away, potentially gone into a building. It'd be SOSG, go and fucking hit that house, and we'd go into that house and have a look. So sometimes we were going into houses and doing like the CQB, and it was like it was nothing like 2-2. It was just like getting in the fucking rooms. Really, it's a bit more like Fibula. No method to it whatsoever. It's just getting the house. So yeah, it was quite a good tour. Quite a good tour. We done the Larchwood 4 on that tour, which was so Larchwood was a series of operations working with USSF to kill or capture al-Zarqawi, who was essentially the founder of ISIS. Larchwood 4 was an operation where we thought we'd nailed him down to a house. My team was on the reserve assault team with a few guys, and it just kicked off quite bad. 5-2-2 lads got shot. So the first assault team went forward and got brassed up by this guy under a car on that operation. And then it was just a trade-off of grenades, blokes on the roof of the house throwing grenades down at us, and then fucking throwing grenades up and suicide bombers running at the house and cracking their cells off in front of us. I think something like 6 suicide bombers cracked their cells off on that
Wow.
op.
Yeah, that's balmy. That is. And was this all part of the 05 tour? Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So obviously,
And
go on.
the
Sorry.
intelligence gathered from that, the intelligence gathered from that operation led to the death of that, because this is where the Americans, oh, we killed Al-Qawi. But that operation, the intelligence gathered from that operation led to his death 2 weeks later, where they nailed him down to having this meeting with somebody and dropped £500 on him. So technically, it was UKSF that nailed him.
Right. Okay. Just shows you how things get distorted in the press, as we well know.
Well, yeah, because even after the Norman Kember op, it was like Delta Force has rescued Norman Kember, because obviously it was in Baghdad, and that was their AO, the Americans. So British weren't supposed to be there. That's why we were wearing BDUs, etc., rolling around in Humvees. But it was actually SOSG and 2-2 it went in and done the rescue.
Oh, well, yeah, I remember that because I was out working in Iraq in 05 on the close protection circuit. And I
Yeah,
remember the Norman Kember thing because it wasn't too long after the Ken Big. Was it before or after the Ken
Kim,
Bigley? It was
afterwards,
around that
it was
time,
after
wasn't
the
it?
Ken Bigley. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there was lots of stuff, lots of kidnappings going on, and all sorts of things. But like I say, the news, I take it with a pinch of salt, even now, because it's not the truth, is it? Let's be honest. But they only
yeah,
see the truth when you're on the ground, you know. And I've been involved in. I saw a suicide bomber. I was quite close to it. Killed 17 people, but the BBC portrayed it that it killed something like 200 people. And I was like, well, that's not the case. I was there the day before, so I only
yeah,
trust stuff when it's with my own two eyes. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So yeah, good tour. I suppose the first one really kind of working in the SFSG role. Obviously, we've talked off air. There's this stuff you can't mention, certain tours and
yeah,
stuff you've done for obvious reasons. So you've come
yeah,
back off that tour. You know, you've had some good skirmishes and that. Back in the UK for a bit, probably training, maybe one or two other different things that you probably can't talk about. But then Iraq 08 went out, and what was that like? Because
yeah,
I remember 06, 07 and bit of 08 in Iraq
yeah,
being quite volatile. I mean, the place was volatile anyway, but there were certain years, you know, that stand out more than others. So I think 08 was one of them years that was particularly bad.
yeah.
But obviously, you're in a kind of soldiering role. I was in a different role. So how was that for you?
Yeah, well, I come back off that tour and then done some training, went to the Oman for some time to do PDT for the Afghan 2007 tour. And then I went to patrol platoon, recce platoon. I can't really say much about what I was doing in recce platoon because working with SRR. So some of the tours that I've done there, I can't mention about with those guys because obviously the severity of them. So when I went to Iraq in 2008, that was still while I was in patrol platoon. Now, it's an operation called Op Spartan. So we obviously had Op Crichton up in Baghdad, Op Spartan down in Basra, in the Cobb. So we had 6 guys from patrol platoon, and we were going out there to be assault team 1. And our mission was to take out the IDF teams. So get intelligence, get a target, get briefed, get on a heli or in vehicles and basically go out into Basra or whatever area we needed to. I think the furthest we went was Tallil Air Base, where we took out a guy who was responsible for killing 3 American soldiers. He actually had their ID cards, the American ID cards, inside the house as well. As I
No
think
way.
like a trophy. Yeah, we found him when we were doing when we were searching the house. So I think he had him as like a trophy. Obviously, he's no longer with us. Um, so that's our mission basically, take out the IDF teams. And this is
But the
where people
IDF
get
teams,
kind of,
that's just for the purpose of it. I get a lot of criticism when people watch these about abbreviations. So IDF team, indirect fire team, is that right?
yeah, so like firing mortars and rockets into the Cobb. So yeah, this is where people get kind of mixed up with SOSG because they think we just sit on the cordons. We don't. I mean, on that 1 6-month tour, we've done 173 raids in houses, 173 in 6 months. A lot of houses to hit, mate. A lot of houses. And SOSG were the first ones in the house. Like they were kicking the doors down, first ones in. With two lads doing our dems for us. So they put the dems on the door for us and blowing in basically, and then we'd enter the house. We had the Iraqi police doing our assault team 2, 3, and 4, and the poachers, which I think are the Royal Anglians, doing our cordons. And then we had American drivers driving our vehicles, or if we use Hellens, it'd be like, I think we were using Merlins and CH-47s at the time. But most of our ops were heli ops, HAFs, helicopter assault forces, dropping us out off the village and we'd walk in, and then hit the house, trying to, like, remain stealth, if you like, but fucking nothing stealth about it, mate. When you're walking, you got 30 lads walking around the village trying to find them. Like, this is the thing, they're all so compact. Like the houses, there's no fucking way you can be quiet in a village. You just can't do it. So the case of just nailing the house down as quickly as you can and just getting in there.
Yeah, I think that has been a misconception, hasn't it, for SFSG, that you're there as like kind of T-boys for SF and that, but it's not the case. Maybe that was kind of what initially sort of was going to be, like you say, manning cordons and stuff, and just being a bit of support for SFSG, for Hereford and stuff like that. But obviously, like you say, now as the roles evolved, you've become like a fighting force in your own, with your own missions and everything else. And I'll come on to a comment you made, because I know where you were coming from. The comment you made on Forces Radio HQ, it's got a bit of controversy. I saw the comments and stuff, but we'll come on to that. But I think I can describe and what you were trying to say by what you said, but we'll come on to that. But yeah, the role's evolved, hasn't it? And like you said, you're now doing house clearances, you're doing proper stuff, you're probably getting the training now as well to do extra stuff. Whereas before, at the start, like you say, you were just second guessing how you do this. But like I say, the role's evolved, more training with SF, and more skills adding to the arsenal. So the role's evolving, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like when you're doing rotations now, so you've got the rotations. I won't go into too much detail of what the actual rotations are within SRSG, but when you're doing the rotations in SRSG, you're the first rotation you kind of survive, and the second rotation you're getting used to it. I mean, they're 18-month rotations, 6 months on each. There's three 6-month periods in a rotation, and you go through that, so 18 months. And then by the fourth rotation, you're kind of getting it. I understand what I've got to do now, and then you're perfecting your art, if you like, of what your profession is, whether it's in machine gun platoon, mortars, snipers, recce. I'm not sure if they got recce now. Recce got disbanded back in 2000. So recce got disbanded in 2008 after my 2008 tour. So I'm not sure if they got now. But whatever your trade is, or your role is within SRSG, you're perfecting it after about 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of gaining that experience and kind of settling into the role. I suppose that is the same as Hereford, though, isn't it? Because you got a lot of training, and they're kind of rotating through different roles, and you're not comfortable in your own skin, and got the full kind of aspect of rotations in. So yeah, after 4 years, you've probably done a full couple of rotations, and you kind of know what you're up to, don't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is another reason why, like the Marines and RAF regiment send their guys down for 2 years, so they're only getting like 1, maybe 2 rotations out of them. Some people are lucky enough to stay a bit longer and probably get 2, 3 rotations. But you're training those guys up to just survive in that rotation, and they're going back to their units. It'd be a lot better if I personally think SSG would be a lot better if they had their own identity, their own cat badge, and just had blokes that went on a selection, got in there, and then you perfected your craft. I think it'd be a lot better if it was done that way. You'd have a lot better soldiers, I think.
Yeah, well, the Marines, you said about the Marines there, and I've said this before. Like, I remember being in 11 Platoon D Company 2 Para, and I was in that platoon in D Company for 7 years after I'd gone out of depot. So so were majority of the guys. So we knew how we all, when we did platoon and company attacks, it were like fluid, because then we all know our strengths and weaknesses. The Marines tend to do that, don't they, and rotate people out, and through the whole Marines, that's their way. And I think that's not necessarily, and I've spoke to a few Marines about it, and they say the same thing. They don't think that's necessarily the best thing for them, because you don't get that continuity or kind of experience as working as a close-knit team. We all know working as a team for a long period of time, you know how each other operates, don't you?
Yeah. So the patrols got disbanded after the 2008 tour, and I went to machine gun platoon. Not my stage, where I got put. Wasn't very happy about it. Didn't want to go machine guns. Fucking hated it. So I went to the OC of B Company because I knew they were going on a 2009 tour. So I got back off leave, started my machine guns Carter, went to the OC and said, look, I want to come back to B Company because it was like 4 platoon. So he pulled some strings and I ended up going back to B Company and starting PDT with them halfway through their PDT, or maybe quarter of the way through. Doing Mobo down in Broughton Burrows, etc., and then deployed with them to Afghan 2009, which was a tour where we lost Steve Bolger and a few other guys. We lost Steve Bolger on I think we'd been in country 3 or 4 days. Pretty sure it's 3 days. We'd been there and we lost him. So that kind of set the tone for the operation for the tour then. Because obviously Panther's Claw, Panchai Palang, that was like a main push in 2009, which caused a lot of casualties. Yeah, it's quite a rough tour, that one, for SOSG anyway.
Yeah, I bet. And like you say, you're going into country, you're there 3 days, and you lose you lose an oppo, you lose, a close friend to people, and yeah, that's going to set the tone, isn't it? Explain to the viewers and followers how that kind of affects you. Is it right? We're going to take it to them, or is that like a drive?
Yeah, on that tour, that's kind of the mindset I had. I was a senior bloke at this point, and a senior Tom in B Company at this point, and that's kind of the attitude I had to have. I couldn't let that affect me. The blokes needed me to be like that stronger character. You know what it's like as a senior bloke. You need to be a strong character, especially as a senior Tom, because you obviously got the NCOs, but you're a senior Tom. The blokes look up to the senior Toms, so you've kind of got to be a strong character. The tour went on for some time, and I went on R&R. I come back from R&R. I hadn't even got off the vehicle back from Bastion to my PB. So we were only 18 k's west of Bastion, where we were operating out of in our camp. And they asked me if I wanted to go out on Tiger Teams. Our Tiger Teams is one of us. At the time, it was just one SOSG guy with 8 Afghans, like just deploying out with whoever needed us. It could be the Americans, the Danish, Brits, anybody that needed us. We'd go and attach our like section, if you like, and be at the forefront of all their patrols. I don't know how it evolved, but that's what it was like back then. We was at the forefront of all the patrols, and I ended up getting attached to the Welsh Guards for that 6-month period down in Nadi Ali, mostly in Shahzad, Challengire, around about that area, at the bottom of Route Dorset. And they had quite a rough tour, to be honest. The Welsh Guards, it was it's quite rough for them.
So
got a lot of respect for Welsh Guards as well.
Yeah, I get you're getting exposure. Like we talk about quite a lot. When you're in the reg, sometimes you get a little bit brainwashed that all of the units are shit. You're the best, and I know why they do that. It's to create the brotherhood and the cult-like status of Parachute. I understand it, but when you work with other units, you realise there are some really, really cracking units out there, and it's a good eye opener, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the Welsh Guards are quite, very similar to the Reg in terms of how proud they are. I mean, they all get their cat badge tattooed on them, but I think it's like the element of being Welsh, because the Welsh are quite patriotic, aren't they? So I think that gives them that regimental pride more than anything. But yeah, that was quite a rough tour for those guys. The Afghans were fucking awesome, great guys. We got some good stuff on that Tiger team. Some real good stuff. We've done some good ops with the Welsh Guards. And then coming down to the 6th of August 2009, I mean, sometimes I'd be called back. So although I'd be with the Welsh Guards, if I was needed back in camp or whatever, to go on an operation with SOSG, I'd get on a heli, go back with the Afghans, and I'd go out on the ground with the SOSG guys. So I'd be just pushing in and out of different places all the time. And other guys that were doing Tiger teams as well at the time. I think we had 5 Tiger teams out on that tour, and it was just one of us with the 8 Afghans. And that was a challenge in itself, just having one of us for the 8 Afghans. I mean, if you're out on the ground and you're punching into an area with no support, which sometimes they'd say, can you go into this area and like just, see what's what? If you got whacked, the Afghans can't use your radio. They don't know where you are. They can't like call in for support. I mean, it got to the point where you was like, if I get whacked, I'm fucking dying, that's it. Like the Afghans, and they ain't gonna like, they haven't got the medical training we've got to like patch you back up. You're gonna bleed out and die basically, and just accept it.
Yeah, I mean that's going to face challenges. I get that. I've been like, again not in that capacity, but I've worked in mixed teams on the close protection, and the
Yeah,
standard isn't the same. But there's a lot of them that will genuinely kind of lay down their life for you, and I suspect they would have been vetted. They'd have been handpicked for the teams themselves. You have an element of training them because you want the best guys in your team that you could possibly have. But it does, as much as them probably they spoke English, you've still got that language barrier and you've still got that level of training between the British and then them. So I can imagine, I can understand some of the frustrations that you must have faced with that.
yeah,
Um, and also the isolation, like you say, of being out there with these kind of mixed teams.
yeah,
Whereas, yeah, I can imagine the struggles. But like you say, you did some good stuff, and they obviously use you to put you to good use and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Well, um, that's the tour where I got my MID. I got written up for a military cross, got an MID, and that's for obviously assault in the compound. A Welsh Guard, won't go into too much detail of it because people like viewers are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But essentially, the lad lost his left leg, had to deal with a casualty, couldn't deal with a firefight. You had to deal with the firefights first. Sorry, heli's going to come in, which will be a bigger target for him. So I put myself in between the guys, so that I draw the fire away from the Welsh Guards and they can deal with this guy. But while that's happening, we spotted the Taliban. They ran into a compound when we hit them with a weight of fire. So decided to assault the compound and we killed 7 Taliban in that compound with my Tiger team. And the guy got extracted and saved.
Happy days, yeah, no fair play. There's something like taking the initiative there. Again, chips are down. What do? You put yourself in
Yeah,
a position, and you know what? That's detriment to your character, because there's not a lot. There are people. I like to think there's a lot of people that would do that, but you never know if you're going to do that or not until
yeah,
you're faced with a situation, and you haven't got this luxury of weighing it up and going, right, do I, don't I? You've gone with your
yeah,
instincts. It's paid off, and quite rightly
yeah.
so. You got an MID for it. So no, hats off, pal. Fair play.
The strange thing was, I've been more scared on a fucking show parade than I was outside that door.
Well, you've
That
not
was a
got time to
strange.
think about it, are you?
That was that was a strange thing. When I got back to camp, I was like, I wasn't actually that scared. Sat outside that door. When you breach that door, you know the Taliban in there. I wasn't that scared. I've been more scared on a show parade or getting shelled back in camp.
Yeah. Being shelled, though, fair play, though. I'd be more scared of that.
Yeah, and it was yeah. And then on that tour, I got hit. The guy in front of me, one of my Afghans, stood on an ID, which was quite a grim thing. This is one of the events that led to me going, like, having my mental health issues later on down the line, which was, he stood on the ID and it blew me back and crushed the side of my helmet. My ops corps took the brunt of it. And then contacted and had to deal with the contact, get the body out of the way, back into the compound, etc. There wasn't even any point putting like my fucking getting your med kit out, mate. He was in that bad a way. There was no stumps to put a tourniquet on. He was pretty fucked. That's probably the worst body I've ever seen, to be honest. He was quite torn up. Yeah, so yeah, that was quite a bad day. And then yeah, there was a guy that I accidentally whacked who turned out to be a civvy, which led to me having my mental health issues later on down the line as well. So a few events on that tour, obviously losing Steve Bolger, losing the three lads on the 6th of August 2009, and then, a few IED strikes, being lucky, and then, the guy, I think sometimes, like, even probably that compound assault, probably without even realising, because your subconscious works in ways that we don't even understand, because your subconscious is working with you without even knowing about it. So I think sometimes we don't even realise that a situation will affect you, but it does affect you because it's in your subconscious, not your conscious.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and like you see, the mind is a mental thing. Well, no pun intended, but it is. It's like the mind is very kind of complex, and as much as you cracked on, back then, it's not until you probably took a minute and you stopped, and after when probably this stuff started to kind of, and you've been quite open. Look, the reason I do the podcast is because, like you, and lots of guys that have worked all over the world and stuff. We've lost loads of friends through
Yeah,
sort of IED, through contacts, and sadly, probably a lot more due to mental health issues. So if I can
yeah,
raise any awareness and get people on like yourself that have done some amazing stuff but are open to talk about their mental health, I hope that people will see it and go, well, he can talk about it, so can I. And I just
yeah,
think it really kind of sort of
yeah.
good that people talk about it. So yeah, when did you become aware? So you've done the Afghan tours. When did you become aware that perhaps there was something wrong? Did you leave after the Afghan 11 tour? Was that the about the
Yeah,
time
so
you was
yeah,
coming to the
so
end?
if I skip everything now and jump to the 2011 tour, I was on the 2011 tour and I kind of realised something was going wrong anyway because I was getting into a lot of trouble when I was back home. I was on the piss a lot, drinking a lot, and then I wasn't really aware of what my actions were and how the consequences of my actions were going to affect me when I was fighting all the time and just getting into trouble. But it essentially come down to just drinking too much and get myself in bother. But drinking was just like the way to silence how I was actually feeling. Um, so yeah, I went on the 2011 tour, and then there was an ID strike in a Bushmaster. It wasn't even that bad, and this is the thing. It wasn't even that bad. But I think it just triggered something in me where I knew that I'd changed, and we got the vehicle recovered back to Mob Price, and then from Mob Price back to our camp in Juneau. And I can remember getting back. Now a lot of lads didn't know this, but when I got back to camp, I started having what I now know as a panic attack, mate. I think because I was in a place of safety in the camp, I just had my body just fucking started shutting down. I had to go and hide in the vehicle park away from the blokes. And I kind of knew from that moment on that, like, my body's telling me to fucking stop. I mean, in 2009 tour, there's a few other incidents that happened on that tour that I think just triggered that, and that one on the 2011 tour just triggered everything. Like, bang, you had enough, mate. You need to fucking pack it in now. Like, you're done, kind of thing. And that's when I really noticed that something in my body had changed massively. Um, and then from that moment on, it was constant fucking like mental games in my head. Ruminating. You think one thing, then you think another, then you think another thing, then you think another, and before you know it, you're fucking panicking.
Yeah, look, I know you've been really open about your kind of struggles and your kind of attempts with suicide and stuff
Yeah,
along the way, and and at which point did you think, right, I need to? Was it the suicide attempts that maybe? Because I remember seeing some posts because we have quite a few mutual friends. I work with Spinky on the
yeah,
anti-piracy that I know you
yeah,
know quite well, and I saw some posts because you've gone missing a few times, when you were struggling with your mental health, and these beacon
yeah,
alert things. I'd seen you on one
yeah,
before I was more of aware of you than I am now, and I've obviously
yeah.
shared it like I do them all. But which point did you think, right, I really need to seek help now?
Well, after the 2011 tour, come back and then went through like the battalion and that, and just get myself in bother again, and my career started taking a bit of a dip. I was just in a bad place, like a real fucking bad place. Like I wasn't really the Dave everybody knew and got along with. I changed as a person massively, mate, because I was just fighting demons constantly in my head. I wasn't, I wasn't like trying to be the best I could be anymore. I was just battling demons all the time and but walking around battalion like a fucking zombie. I mean, it's like this the saying, isn't it? Like someone, but no one's home, just walking around like a zombie, not knowing what the fuck's what. It was only when I was actually on exercises or something that I was actually enjoying myself. And I'd get back to that, that spark, and I'd have that like smile on my face, just walking around camp and just being aimlessly, just didn't enjoy it. And I just fucking developed like bad attitude towards life and just fucking in general. And then I got kicked out. I got kicked out for performance enhancing drugs. Um, yeah, I got pinged for performance enhancing drugs. Got kicked out. Went on the circuit for a little while. Um, and then I knew there was some big fucking dramas. I mean, I had my kids. my two eldest kids are born 3 months apart, so I've got 2 women pregnant at the same time. And that was a challenging time itself. I think that fucking gave me PTSD.
Probably, yeah.
I'm joking about it now, but it wasn't at the time. But when my kids were born, I just didn't feel anything. Didn't feel anything, mate. I was confused in my emotion. And throughout my career, emotion was very confusing for me. Now, I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, which is unstable emotional personality disorder, as the Americans call it, which is exactly what I've just said. It's not knowing what you're feeling. It's confusion in your emotions. So you don't really, if somebody else gets an emotion like happy or sadness, they know exactly how they're feeling, where my body can't differentiate between emotions. So I find it hard to understand how I'm feeling or act impulsively. Or I have to be close to people. I can't be alone. I have to be close to people all the time, because I have to have that almost that warm fuzzy feeling that I'm fucking with somebody. Because if I'm on my own, then you're fucking hell, meds go mental. I can't, it's just not a good fucking time for me when I'm on my own. So yeah, and not having the blokes around me in that support network was quite hard as well, because people don't realise that when you're around the blokes and having that support network, just being around the blokes, mate, and and just having that camaraderie, mate, helps you a fucking lot. And people, you don't realise it until it's gone. You don't realise it until it's gone. So just being back out in this world, mate, and not having anybody to talk to. I mean, I didn't want to talk to my parents. I didn't want to talk to my missus at the time. And that's kind of how my Instagram started, because if I'm having a conversation like this with somebody, I used to get the heebie-jeebies and start stuttering and shit, because I didn't know how to express my own feelings. From here to here to for people to understand it, I just didn't know how to express how I'm feeling to people, because I didn't understand how I was feeling myself. I mean, how can you explain how you're feeling when you don't understand it yourself?
Yeah.
So,
true.
so what I got into was I started my Instagram, and I was writing down how I was feeling, and it would take me a period of time to write a post about how I was feeling. And I'd post it, and then my missus, my sisters, my mum, and that could read it, and they'd understand it. Before I knew it, it just fucking blew up. People were following it, but I didn't expect people to be following it for that reason. And then people started messaging me saying, "Oh, you're helping me," and that's kind of where that come from. But although I was helping people, I was still in a very dark place myself. I mean, I thought I'd go back and start playing rugby, because I'd have that camaraderie. I was good at rugby. I enjoy it. But then I got playing rugby, and I was on the piss all the time at weekends, playing rugby, fighting, and then and I thought I was silencing my emotions, and then I started taking drugs and things, mate, but I felt on top of the fucking world at the time. But what I didn't counter for was when it's gone, I'm feeling shit again. All right, so I go back on the piss, and I start taking more drugs to silence my emotions. I feel shit. All right, I'll go back on the piss and I'll take more drugs to silence my emotions. But all I was doing was just keeping everything at bay and bottling everything up, and not actually dealing with the problem at hand. When all I had to do was do something so simple as just go, "I need fucking help. Please help me."
Yeah.
I was just getting myself into a deeper hole, when all I had to do was just ask for help. All I had to do was ask for help, and I was just digging a big fucking hole that I got myself into. I didn't see any way out of. I mean, I had so many problems, mate. I had the problems with PTSD, borderline personality disorder. Then I had the problems with cheating on my missus all the time, because I was just being a fucking idiot and shagging about and just being a bellend, and causing myself more problems at home, when I could have had an easy life at home with somebody that supported me. Then I wasn't seeing my kids, but I was just neglecting my kids, when I could have had the kids around me, and it could have brought a little bit of love and joy to my life, mate, and made me feel good about myself. But I was pushing everything away, because I was in such a dark hole. And it got to the point where I was I'm in a hole here that I can't get myself out of. And I didn't see any way out. I mean, I went to the NHS when I got diagnosed with PTSD and borderline personality disorder, and they just give me those titles, but they didn't treat me as a person. They treat the titles of the condition, which I think where the NHS go wrong. They don't treat if you put 100 people in a room that's got PTSD, everyone's going to be different in their own unique ways.
Absolutely, yeah.
You need to treat the person, not the title. So yeah, there's no rapport being built, and I was in a real fucking dark place. And like we say, when I went missing, I was in that fucking darker place. I was like, oh, my head's fucking gone. Like, completely gone. Like, I got so many fucking thoughts going through my head. For that reason, I'm staying awake at night. Can't sleep. So there's no one to talk to while everyone's asleep. So I'm just sat in my room staring at a fucking wall. Like, on ceiling duty like that, mate. Just fucking staring at the ceiling. Thinking about bollocks. Obviously, boozing and taking drugs don't help that at all either.
No.
So I was just fucking getting nowhere in life. So I thought, right, I'm gonna fucking sign off. So I said, I text my parents and that, and then I hung myself. But they could tell by the way I was chatting, like something was wrong. So when they come home, I can't remember going lights out. People say to me, "Can you remember going lights out when you hung yourself?" And I can't remember. I can remember doing it, but I can't remember going lights out. And then I woke up in my mum's arms when they done CPR on me. Because I was dead. I was like literally hanging there dead, lifeless.
Wow.
When they got to me, I was just literally fucking hanging. I think the paramedics and that come and said I'm very fucking lucky that they got there in time.
Well, obviously it was meant to be for a reason, you know. You're here now to do the things that you're doing and kind of spreading the positive stuff. And you know,
Yeah.
I believe in fate, you know. And like you said, you were masking it for a long time with drugs and alcohol. But I think that's quite common, especially in ex-soldiers, because you feel good when you're on the piss, and you don't. And then you get the come down and you feel shit again. But when
Yeah.
all you have to do is ask for help, but
Yeah.
that's easier said than done, isn't it? Especially with the stigma attached around asking for help, especially in the professions that you're in, that I've been in, and that I still am in, and you are now, and lots of other guys and girls.
Yeah.
That asking for help is shown as a sign of weakness, and
Yeah.
you're kind of
It
broken.
didn't really help. But when I was in a dark hole and I was like, you know, I was in a bad place mentally, and I mean, I've had people from my own fucking battalion, one para, call me up and say, like, and this is after I tried to hang myself, try and fucking hang yourself again, like taking a piss in that, mate, like fucking dickheads, like mate, gen up. I've had people from one para call me, and I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, wouldn't even say who it is, mate. I've had people message me off like fake accounts, like of calling me a murderer, mate, saying I murdered people in Afghan, I fucking deserve to die. Like, people ain't got a fucking clue, and that's people in the Parachute Regiment, mate, doing that.
Yeah, you
I've
know
had,
what, sadly, mate, you get shit like that everywhere, and it's sad when it comes from like your
yeah,
unit that's supposed to be supporting you. You
yeah.
know.
And it got to the point where I was like, even my own fucking regiment, like my own battalion, are giving me shit for what fucking reason? Because I've been in a bad place. Like, you know, we all go through bad times. We all get into a bad place, mate. We all fucking make mistakes, but don't fucking shoot the blokes when they're down. Like, fucking help them out. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. Yeah.
and then after shortly after that period, mate. Shortly after that period, I was still in a bad place, still fucking wanting to go. So I stabbed myself with a kitchen knife and almost bled to death. So I was lucky that time as well. Yeah, lucky. I was very lucky that time. They reckon the only reason why I survived that is because my abs were so thick because I was bodybuilding.
Well, Scott, there you go. If that's not any reason to sort of sort your abs out, you know.
Yeah,
Wow. Well, obviously, mate, to do that, you've got to have been in a really dark and kind of, I can't comprehend, because I've never been there in that sort of capacity. So yeah, to be in that position, to see nowhere. At which point did you start to see perhaps there's like a light at the end of the tunnel? I've got stuff to
so
live for.
yeah, so I went to Rock to Recovery. Someone put out. I can't remember who it was now. Somebody might pop up and say it was them. Whoever it is, thank you. But somebody said if you got in touch with Rock to Recovery, so I went to Rock to Recovery. When I had a meeting with them, the first meeting I went to, I felt good about it. I felt like they actually cared about me as a person, not just the title. And it
Yeah.
gave me that little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, which then allowed me to see I can get somewhere. There is, like, it's going to be a hard journey, but mental health isn't a destination, it's a journey. Like, but it gave me that little bit of hope, just seeing that little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, give me that hope that I can do this, which then allowed me to stick with the sessions. And the more sessions I went to, I started to feel a little bit better about myself, and the weight started lifting off my shoulders, and I started to just get somewhere. But we all need help sometimes. And I think what the blokes forget is about saving face and like being looked at like something's wrong with you if you have like a mental health issues.
Yeah.
You're actually a stronger person because the character we are. Asking for help is actually quite a strong thing for us to do. So you should be looked at as like a stronger person for asking for help. And we all need it sometimes. We all need it. We're not fucking perfect, mate. We all need to be shown how to manage our emotions sometimes. We all need to be shown how to, manage our triggers, what our triggers are. If we have got like a mental health condition, allow somebody to actually show you how to manage that emotion and like what your triggers are, so you can live a happy life. I mean, fucking hell, mate. I mean, what we've all been through, we all deserve to have a happy life.
Yeah. No, 100%, mate.
None of us should live inside our own heads because it's a fucking dark place, mate. And none of us deserve it. We should all live a fucking happy life. And my advice for anybody out there is just fucking ask for help and go get it. And if anyone's listening to this and wants any advice, they can message me on my Instagram or whatever, and I'll put in the right direction.
Yeah, no, fair play, pal. I appreciate that, and I'm sure there's people that will reach out. And I think the messages that you're kind of saying there is exactly what I'm trying to push, and it just ask for help, get sorted, because when you do seek that help, and you'll be able to vouch for this, you probably can't recognize that person that was back then now, because you're on the kind of the other side. Now, I'm not saying I don't know you personally,
Yeah.
but you may never ever be 100% fixed, but you've got ways now that you can manage your mental health. And like you said, you know what the triggers are. You know it's not good for you to go out on the piss, because that will put you back in on a
Yeah.
low, and it will start off a spiral of things. So it's just about managing it. And you've
Yeah.
probably found simple ways now to manage your mental health. That's not that difficult, right?
Yeah. Well, this is it. This is what I mean by we need to be shown sometimes how to manage our emotion and like understand ourselves like a little bit better. I mean, I don't fully understand myself. I still learn stuff about myself every day. Like I relapse. Sometimes I relapsed first time in 3 years. A couple of weeks ago. Nothing catastrophic, nothing bad. Just went into a bit of a bad, like a dark hole on the piss a little bit too much, and then starting to get myself in a little bit of trouble. My missus had to make me aware of that. But relapse is okay as long as you learn something about yourself. I mean, we're all going to relapse. We can't always. Sometimes we try and stay on a path. When we're doing well in life and we're living a good life, we try and stay on the path too much. We don't deviate off that path. We're trying to stay right. We're trying to stay focused. But what that does is you're bottling stuff up still, because you're not letting yourself deviate off that path a little bit by having, bad days and good days or whatever, mate. So you need to let yourself have bad days. You need to let yourself have the better days. Don't try and stay on the path. Like, let yourself feel emotion. Like, go and see the blokes, talk to them. Fuck, if you need to have a cry and a cuddle with one of the blokes, go and fucking do it. Like,
Yeah.
just do it. Don't try and stay on the path of like being a fucking strong-minded bloke all the time. I mean, because it just goes down one route, and that's relapse.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right there. Again, it's okay. And again, the whole saying goes, it's okay not to be okay. You don't have to be
Yeah,
this sort of Superman 24/7 just because you feel like you're supporting people around you. And I think people will think a lot more of you if you reached out for help and,
yeah,
kind of expressed yourself a bit more so people understand. But no, look, Dave, thanks for sharing with the mental health kind of stuff. I know it's not easy. I know you kind of spoke about it quite a lot, but no, I think their messages are massively important, and
yeah,
hopefully, what you've said there will help people, because I think that's, out of everyone I've spoke to with all the guests I've had on, I think that's the most in depth and kind of raw sort of struggle with mental
yeah,
health, especially with the attempts on suicide, and
yeah,
hopefully you're on the up and you continue to manage it and everything else.
yeah.
What I want a couple more things, because I'm conscious of the time, Dave. I don't want to
Yeah,
keep
no
you
worries,
too
mate.
long. I know you've got. Obviously, we touched on the mental health. I wanted to talk about that. I talked about earlier. I didn't want to forget it. Is that when you were on Forces Radio HQ with kind of Phil, you made a comment, and I saw a lot of backlash about it. But I want to try and explain what I think, and then you can correct me if that's what you meant. I
Yeah,
think what you said, you thought SFSG were better than 2-2 but you meant it as in certain things. And I think you meant because they do so many different roles that sometimes they drift away from the Green Army stuff. Whereas
Exactly.
SFSG do the section attacks, they do the on a regular. So you were kind of pointing out that at that particular task, the section attack platoon attacks, they're probably better than 2-2 at it because they're more current. Was that good enough?
I, I think some blokes in SSG will match 2-2 in CQB. I think some lads at SSG are shit hot at CQB. I think, but SSG have got their specific roles, as in snipers, mortars. Like we do section attacks, platoon attacks, company attacks. Whereas they don't do that often. I'm not saying they can't do it to a good standard, but I think SSG are better, which I think makes SSG the best fighting force in the British Army. That's my personal belief. People aren't going to agree with it, and that's happy. But my personal belief is because SSG do such they do a lot of things. They do MCT with like the SBS. They do counterterrorism with 2-2. Then they do their own normal Green Army roles, which they've got. There's a lot of stuff that they can do.
Yeah, fair. But like I say, I get. Look, I've not been in either, so it's not. I was in two para for 7 years. I can't sort of really have that sort of opinion on it because I was in neither. Sadly, I
Yeah,
was in neither. Not for want of perhaps regrets, but I wasn't. But it's just the way it is. But yeah, no, fair play. And I can see what you're trying to say there. And I know, obviously, you go on 2-2, you do their selection process, and a lot of guys fall by the wayside because they don't pass this. That doesn't mean they're not good soldiers, though, does it? Just means they
no.
can't pass injuries a lot of the time, especially in
Injuries are
power.
the biggest one, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and I know some absolutely, you'll probably know them as well, absolutely incredible soldiers, but because of injuries, never made it to 2-2. Whether their
Yeah,
soldiering capacity was probably good enough to have been in there is a different story, but the
yeah,
injuries stop that. So there's
yeah,
probably a lot of guys in SFSG that would make excellent SF operators, but through injury or not wanting, why would you want to sometimes go on selection and put yourself through that if you're
yeah.
already doing really alley and good stuff with an
Exactly.
SFSG?
And that's why I didn't want to go on selection because I was happy where I was. And to be honest with you, 2-2 didn't impress me.
Really?
No, I'm only
That's a
joking.
different story.
I'm only joking. No, I was just happy where I was. And I think, like I say, got to the point where I was on tours, I was enjoying myself, and it just got to the point where, like 2011 onwards, I was just living a constant battle inside my own head,
Right, fair play,
which
mate.
which,
Well,
which, which didn't make me which didn't make me want to go on it really, mate. So I was just fighting my own personal demons.
yeah, well, I say, look, and I believe in fate. You look back in hindsight, you may have done stuff different. It is what it is, but your path
Yep.
takes a path in life, you know. What I wanted to touch on kind of lastly is obviously currently what you're up to, if you can talk about it. And briefly, obviously, I'm a firefighter. I think we talked briefly, but because you was sort of looking at joining the fire service after you left the mill, but obviously you went
Yeah.
down a different route and everything else. What was the
Yeah.
reason? You just didn't fancy it, or
Yeah. I went through the selection process. So I went through the selection process back in, I think it was 15, 16. At 930, I got offered a place because my dad was a firefighter, and I knew quite a few of the blokes. So I was one of 40 that got offered a place, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna go back in the reg. So I signed up to go back in the reg, but for medical reasons, they wouldn't let me back in. Um, so yeah, so I fucked that one up. So I went into private security, mate. I did surveillance for 2 years in Europe, for a company with a few power edge blokes actually. There's a few power edge blokes on it that probably watch this. We're spying on people for the Kazakhstan government. So that was quite interesting. All over Europe, in Dubai, sometimes America, a lot in London. No, I got binned off that because I was too big. I was just going to the gym, mate, taking gear, and there was just this this meathead walking around London, following in Europe, following people. They were like, "You can't fucking follow people, Dave. You're too big." You sound
got to
like
blend
a
in,
sore
ain't you?
game.
You got to blend in. You got to blend in with surveillance. I did surveillance back here for a number of years in between the amateur and the pirate stuff. So I worked for BBC Rogue Traders. It's not quite in Europe spying on, people like that. I'm not going to lie, dodgy
Yeah,
plumbers and sparkies and
yeah,
stuff like that. Bit
yeah.
different. But yeah, I hardly fit, and I'm 6'2" and 17 stone, mate. So and I'm covered in tattoos and sleeves. So you don't really kind of blend in too well, do you?
Mate, I'm about 126 kilos at it, so I stand out like a sore dick.
Yeah, that's big. That is big. That's what I said to you. I said when I was trying to get you on and I was slagging you off a bit, jokingly, I was like, "I'll come down there and I'll do absolutely nothing because you're bigger than me." So,
Yeah.
like,
One of the last things I'll touch on, mate, is the emotional bucket. You ever heard about the emotional bucket?
I haven't. No.
So if you think about a bucket inside us, when you feel like bad emotion, that bucket starts to fill up like water. Now, if you bottle things up, that bucket's going to overflow, and that's when it becomes a problem. However, if you punch holes in that bucket, it's going to empty and it won't overflow, which creates a problem. Now, by punching a hole in that bucket, cry, talk to the blokes, ask for help, cuddle, spend time with your family, do all the good things that make you feel good about yourself, to punch holes in that bucket, to let the water drain out, which is the emotion, and don't let it overflow.
No, fair play, pal. Fair play. Good advice. I've heard it called different things, but that is a
Yeah.
really good analogy for it, if you like, and everything else.
Things I try and do now, spend good time with my missus. Yeah, like my missus is good. Like I got a good missus now, looks after me. She knows, like she's aware of like good days, bad days, doesn't trigger me. She knows what if I'm having a bad day or so, she's really supportive of me. Yeah, I've got my kids, who are terrors sometimes, but
On the roll.
I love them. I love them. And they replaced like the reg. It was, the reg thing that was missing. When I left the reg, it was like something was missing. There was like a hole in my body that just was empty. There's that empty part, and it's been replaced with the family time with my kids now. So I have that new purpose in life, which is to try and spread awareness to help other people, but also be a good dad and like fucking partner to my missus.
No, fair play. Look, it's great to see you in a good place, healthy, kind of mentally and physically, and everything else, and with your family and everything else. Because I know you've had your struggles, as we talked about,
Yeah,
and probably a lot more that you kind of not discovered and talked about
yeah,
as well. So look, again, thanks for coming on, Dave. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks for being open. Thanks for
that's all right, mate.
sharing.
No problem.
And hopefully, like I say, your words will sort of maybe push people to go and seek help themselves. And like I say, I think it all helps getting the messages out there. And like I say, we're all on the same wavelength. And
Yeah,
I think you get to a certain stage in life, I've said it numerous times, where you kind of find yourself happy in your own life and you want to kind of give something back. That's a bit where I'm like, that's where I am. I'm happy and content. I've got a good supportive missus as well, got my
yeah,
family around me. I'm in a good job that I enjoy. So now I'm in a position to give something back and hopefully
yeah,
help others. So
yeah.
look, Dave,
My inbox is always open for the blokes as well. Doesn't matter what regiment you're from. Like we're all in it together, mate. We're all in the same boat. So if anybody needs that help or needs pointing in the right direction, ping me a message and I'll point you in the right direction and we'll try and get the help they need.
thank you very much, Dave. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for sharing. You take care, pal, and I'll speak soon.
All the best, mate. All the best.